I don't ever want to hear again, don't speak ill of the dead. I don't ever want to hear that. I want that gone. Because here's the deal. Being dead doesn't indemnify someone from what they did, right?
Mm, yeah.
And it is very hard to heal when someone has crossed and it was abusive and there wasn't healing when they were here. It is very hard to heal when you cannot tell the truth about what happened. He's going to be mad at me. No, like souls, that's like being in soul form is a totally different situation than being a human. And you can't get this out of your body. It can't leave you until you tell the truth of it. Welcome to the Intrepid Soul podcast, where we explore what it takes to build a human life that's congruent with your soul. I'm Katie Benway, a mystic, teacher, and author, here to walk with you through the wilds of the human experience as we get to know and get closer to the soul. Let's get curious, courageous, and conscious together. Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for being back at the Intrepid Soul podcast. And today we have Amory B. Thomas Brown back with me again for our third conversation. We knew we at least wanted to have 3 conversations because the universe works in 3s. And it felt really incomplete to do anything less than that structure. So we're in sort of like that magical number 3, which we love. And I'll say now, and I'll say it again at the end, we have had so much fun talking to each other, and we're going to continue to have these conversations. And so we invite you to send us any questions or thoughts you have. As part of the Intrepid Soul community, that there's a Q&A option based upon any one or all 3, some or all of these conversations that we have had. If they've prompted reflections or musings in you, if you have questions, if you have stuff you'd like us to get into and give you some advice on or clarify, go ahead and drop those questions in. You'll find a spot for that at the Intrepid Soul platform. Drop us your questions, and then when we get some, we will create a Q&A episode. All right. Hi, Amory.
Hi, Katie.
So good to have you back.
So good to be back with you, Katie. It
The
is.
love fest continues. Okay, so let's dive right in. If you've been listening to these conversations with Amory and I, you might have heard her talk like this. I have, and I want to ask more about this. So, Amory, you talk about the work you do is the work of remembrance. And I wondered if you could tell us about that, what that means to you, what that looks like in the world, and why that's so important to you and why you value that so deeply. It's a lot of questions. We'll start with the work of remembrance.
Well, I think, Katie, that it comes from my own experiencing that, seeing that outside of this world, I exist, and that existence translates into this physical world, and seeing that from an energetic perspective, like actually experiencing that, helped me coming back into my body to remember that. Not everyone has had that experience, right? And so we tend to operate on what we know, what we've experienced. And so I am seeing the benefit to being aware of who I am and why I'm here outside of this, that it calls to me to help other people come into that remembrance, because I know it to be true. I know it to be true. And just to be able to remember in your own experience. Like, you don't have to go outside like I did, but I know that place, if it's real for me, it's real for you. Like, it's a real place, it's a real experience, that we exist outside of this physical dimension. We're multidimensional beings, and so to see the interconnectedness of all of it is remembrance work. And so, and that remembrance looks different. I would like to say that I got to experience it from outside my crown into my life. That why not be able to, that I should be able to work with other people that are inside, like from the root up, that because it all centers in the heart,
Right.
which is the work of remembrance, remembering that we are one, that all is one, that there is nothing missing and nothing broken, and that even in the midst of our experiences, all is always well. And coming to that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It reminds me of, number 1, I think of people who have, like, near-death experiences, or people I've worked with folks who did die for, like, a couple of minutes and then came back. And, you know, people listening may not necessarily know someone who went through that, but I think that we've heard about that. We've seen interviews or books or et cetera. So I think about the people who, like, physically have those experiences of leaving their body, through, like, a physical death, and so many of them come back and talk about, "There is something much larger. Here's what I see." There was peace, I was aware. And the other thing this makes me think of too, and this is what we talked a lot about in our last conversation, is that you don't have to have a near-death experience, or you had, like, a very existential experience. You had a real, like, out of your body soul, you were up there in the ether looking down experience. I think that, like, when people go through difficult things, that is that sort of outside looking in. So, the death of someone that you love, sudden tragedy, unforeseen things, or, like, the loss of an identity. I think that there's a way that life, like our existence as humans, is really, like, wired. There's a blueprint for having experiences that force us out in order then to go in. And this notion that the more intense things get in the out, the more deeply, resolutely we can go in. And I know, I just wanna honor for everybody listening, like, our goal today is to not talk in this, like, etheric, thematic way, but, like, make it real and accessible. Although I would suspect that a lot of people listening know what we're getting at and know what we're talking about. And maybe the question I have for, just the prompt I would have for anyone listening is like, how do you know there's something larger? How do you know that you're a soul? And I certainly am not asking that in, like, a quiz kind of way. I'm asking that in a reflective invitation way. You may know that you're a soul because of an experience you have personally had. You may know that you're a soul because of tragedy you've been through. You may know that you're a soul because you've had a nudge or an inkling your whole life, and that's all you've got, right? I'll speak for myself. I know I'm a soul because for 15 years I've talked to thousands of people and it comes up over and over and over again, right? So we all have different ways we come at it, like different, like proof or different experiences. And what I love about the way you talk about your work, Marie, the work of remembrance is this idea, right? I think it's another way of, like, talking about the notion that the gig when we come here is to forget that we're a soul. Like, that's the gig. We incarnate here, we come into human form, and we're meant to quote unquote forget. We are. We're meant to be in the distance between here and our soul. We're meant to forget. We're meant to overlook, not realize, so that we can have the experience of returning to the soul, of coming home, of remembering. And Mike Dooley, he does this great thing called Notes from the Universe, and he's written a couple books. He has this quote, and I won't be able to say it perfectly, but it's something akin to, like, humans need the illusions of beginnings and ends in order to start again. Like, we as humans need the experience of beginnings and endings in order to do the return home. And so these experiences we have of something starts, something ends, something starts, something ends, helps to remind us of, like, progress or return or piece by piece or fragment by fragment. But all of it on a higher level is simply a reminder that we are whole.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. I like to say, and I understand as someone I've learned since this came to me that someone actually said this, that we are in the process of becoming that which we already are. That
Yes.
we're always pushing inward, onward towards something that we already have ascertained and simply forgot.
Mhm.
That we have this beautiful relationship between our body and soul when we take that first breath that creates this amnesia. I like to say that we all have the same original trauma. We were born human, and so we all had that forget. You know what I mean? And so
Yeah.
that's the beauty of, I feel, this work that we do, you and I
Mhm.
both, that we're sorting through the opportunities that are there. It's not like this one shot deal. We've got many, many opportunities and experiences to remind us of what we're talking about. So it's like we can't get it wrong. Like, well, there was this time. And you know what? Now that I think about it, I've noticed that in the work of remembrance, that once you start identifying places in your journey that, oh, there was that, it opens to other
Mhm.
experiences or opportunities that you can see that, oh, that is something else,
Yeah. Right.
you know?
Right. Yeah. One of the things that I like to say is, like, the human experience is teaching us about ourselves so that we can return to the soul. And the theater of human life, and now I'm not devaluing or invalidating the trauma that occurs, because it's real,
Yeah.
and also it is theater in the sense of we are meant to see it and feel it and get into it and transcend it in order to know the core of ourselves. And I really think, like, that's sort of like the algorithm of incarnation is, you come here, you come into a human body, you have a life, circumstances, events, difficulties, joy. Let's not forget joy. Let's not forget the good stuff.
Yeah.
And but all of it is meant to show you about yourself. It's meant to help you become conscious. It's meant to help you heal. It's meant to help you remove the things that are in the way of your soul, the blocks, the false beliefs, the limiting beliefs, the things that people told you that aren't real, the stuff that's stuck to you. And we're certain, Amory and I certainly aren't saying, like, you go through life and you mine all of your experiences only for, that usefulness. You've got to feel stuff. You've got to be in it and be changed by it. But there is a way that we really are meant to transcend our experiences and use what happens on the human level, or remember that what happens on the human level in the end is about returning us to the soul.
Yeah. I think it was very empowering to me when I realized that I wasn't just playing a role.
Mm,
I wasn't just participating in these events that are occurring in this live stream that I'm experiencing. I'm also directing and co-creating them as I go. It was very empowering for me to step away from the, oh, this is life is happening to me, instead of life is being experienced through me, and the me is nothing missing and nothing broken. And it was a coming to for me. So I'm not talking about something that you just, oh, well, yeah, it's all done. It's in my experiences, that nudge was there for me to see that, you're orchestrating this. You know that,
mm,
because I've seen and how I can change my way of thinking about a situation and see it totally different. And
yes.
so we have many opportunities to experience the same lesson through different engagements with different people. We're still talking about relationship and being a part of that. That is the beauty of this experience. Like, to be
Mhm,
able to, the beauty and the pain
mhm,
brings us to a remembrance that all is one. Like, this
mhm.
interconnectedness of everything. And like you said, like, we don't want to make this like so out of touch. Like, what do you really mean? I'm just saying that even you and I, we've shared experiences, and although we may be talking about different experiences, we're really talking about the same thing, different spectrums of the same thing. That we're not experiencing different things; we're just experiencing things differently.
Mhm. That's right.
That just came to me. It
Yeah.
was very empowering for me to see that, like, for me to see, like, oh, so it affected, or it impacted how I saw my experiences. And so I was happy to go into my experience and say, okay, what else can I see here? Well,
Mm,
I know I saw my dad screaming at my mom or hitting my mom and giving her a bloody nose. What else can I see here?
right.
So that was
Right.
embarrassing. It wasn't scary. The scariness was gone. The fear of remembering that. It's like it changed the whole experience, Katie. You
Yeah.
know? So there was a depth, in a sense. No, there was a depth to an impression. There was a depth to, and that it didn't make it wrong. It happened and it was real, but there was an ending to that and a beginning to something else that I think that our experiences are not meant to be processed and done. I think we're meant to see
Yeah.
different things at different junctures of our journey in the same experience, though, in the same encounter,
Yeah.
you know?
I so agree with that, and, for our audience, what happens is Amory and I record these conversations, and then, we hit end on the record button, and then we talk for an hour. And we just talk and talk. And when we have a lot in common, Amory and I, and we have discovered in our life experiences, in traumatic experiences and family systems, etc. And so I'm glad you bring this up, Amory, because I think it is actually really useful for us to get practical about it. And, one of the things that Amory and I have talked about are our experiences with our fathers and sort of the deaths and rebirths that have happened around that. And I love what you're pointing out here. Like, let's talk about story and our relationship with story, okay? That we have experiences as kids in these cases, and for most of you listening, you have them too. We have these experiences as kids and we co-identify with them. They become part of us. And that's correct. Like, kids are wired to take what's happening outside of them and bring it in and make it mean something about themselves. That is the way kids happen. That is like correct for the cognition. That is not incorrect. And so we draw things in. It's in our being. It creates limiting beliefs and false beliefs and assumptions and all of these things, the way that we know ourselves. And part of the work is coming of age and realizing what is you and what's not you. And so many of you listening know this. Like, this is the value of therapy, of coaching, of telling your story, of journaling, of the grief, of the anger, right? Here's what I experienced. Here's how I took it in. My gosh, it's impacted my life. It is sent me on this trajectory or that trajectory. Here's pain as a result of that. And that spot is an invitation to say, this became my identity because, of course, I was a kid and that's what happens. But now I have a choice. And you start to create some space between what happened to you as your identity and your truest self. There's space now. There's a gap. It's no longer one and the same. And I think that's where we can get in and start talking about what's the story. What is the story about what occurred, about the dynamics with your father, those scenes that run through your mind with your father. I know my dynamics with my father. For a while, that was my identity. And then as stories were told and I went through my healing, I was able to look at the narratives I created or my relationship with the story. And a lot of times, some of those first passes appropriately are telling your story and acknowledging the ways that you were disenfranchised or victimized or abused. And very naturally over time, hopefully, each of us comes to a place where we say, okay, it doesn't serve me right now to think of myself as disenfranchised or abused or a victim. I'm ready to step into the next space, which is, how has this informed me? How has this inspired me? How has this, and I'll speak for myself, inspired me to be the human being that I am? I know who I am because I was treated like the opposite.
Mm,
I
mhm,
know what I meant to do in the world because of the gaps I felt. And now I still feel pain in that sometimes, but that's me coming out of a story that says this happened to me and I'm stuck, and into this informed me. And I think in those thresholds, when we do another turn of the wheel, that is the space where our soul shows up. That is the space where we touch the bigger thing, the bigger plan, the soul. Because the things I experienced weren't done to punish me, weren't done to permanently keep me down. They were actually part of my life so that I could experience pain and suffering. I could experience being separate from my truest self. And I could go see about that. I could go into the pain and suffering, question it, tell the story, wonder, wrestle with the story, and come out and say, wait a minute, maybe I'm not the story. Maybe I'm informed by the experience. And then, like, there's a shedding of the story, right? And
yeah,
this suspicion that there's something bigger, that you're something bigger, that I'm something bigger, that there's meant to be something good or deep or powerful or changeable that comes out of this. And I think these moments, it's like, and I mean, gosh, I've spent 15 years like sitting with people in these moments. They're such important moments because it can be unclear and foggy and fraught. It's sort of like equal parts pain with joy and suspicion that there's something greater and better. And yet these moments are when you really decide who you are. You decide to suspend your relationship with the story or change your relationship with the story and instead get in relationship with yourself.
And I think that's good what you're saying as far as this work of remembrance, that you're seeing all these different nuances and dynamics in your human experience that point you to the truth that I am something greater than this, because you're
Mhm.
able to see what you've experienced. Like we have the beauty of, I say the beauty of memory is that we know what we experienced. No one can tell us what we experienced. And tell your story the way you remember it. Telling your story authentically the way you remember it opens you to see something else. I have seen it time and time again.
Yes.
People that tell it. You don't have to, don't change it. Don't try to pretty it up. Just tell
Mm,
it the way you remember it, the way you're feeling it right now. And it's just something about being authentic opens
mhm.
you to greater vision or clarity about that same situation, you
Yes.
know?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I gotta say, I don't think you can transcend something unless you tell yourself the truth about it. You
Mm,
don't necessarily have to go tell the world that truth. You can if you want, or a trusted friend or a coach or a therapist or whatever. But you've got to tell yourself the truth. And if you can tell yourself the truth about your experience, your story, the pain, you then set yourself up to transcend it,
yeah,
right? And like the coming through it and being changed and knowing who you are more clearly.
yeah,
I think that the telling of the truth is a act of surrender.
yeah. There's a quote that I say. It says, "Let's tell the truth to each other and lie to everyone else." Now, when you hear that, you think, God, why would you do that? But when you look at it in the context of intimacy
Mm,
and authenticity,
mm,
intimacy says you tell the truth to me and I'm going to mirror the truth back to you.
mm,
And lying to everyone else is not lying. This is the part of the story that I'm telling you. To your point, I don't have to go into the details of my experience in order for you to understand what I'm saying. And
mm,
so sometimes people feel that omission of something is lying, but I don't
mm,
need to tell you what went through me when I saw my father hit my mother across the face and I saw the blood coming down her nose, dripping on her blouse, and other adults stood by and watched it.
mm.
I can tell you that it is very traumatizing to watch someone that you love be accosted in a way that they can't help themselves, and there are other people that are there to help and don't. You see,
Yeah.
I can tell you that. So it's like in the sense of, why didn't you tell me that you stood? I don't have to tell you that. I don't have to tell you that. But I can tell you that, Katie, and I can tell
Mhm.
whoever's listening that. But I don't have to tell the world that. Like, you know
Yeah.
what I mean? So yeah, let's
Yes.
tell the truth, but not lie. It's just that I'm omitting some information and
Mm,
giving you the cream of the experience
mhm.
and leaving the dross behind. And there's value in that though, because like you said, we need to tell it like it is, but at some point there comes this, I won't say cover up, but it's like, well, let's get the crux of the matter.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think what you're talking about maybe is, like, attachment to story. Like, I agree, I think there's what I have just found in my life and I know what's really valuable, the work I do with clients is, like, sometimes you just need to tell the story once,
Mm,
or a couple of times, like, just, to that one person, right, talking about intimacy. Here's the story, here's the stuff. I see this a ton with my clients, right? And they'll tell me all the edges of the story, and I think that's so valuable, like, it's so validating and valuable. But when you tell that story in that kind of detail, you then are able to take a step forward and say, "Okay, I don't actually have to get into all that detail. Here's the residue in me. Here's what it left." And then usually what it left is
limiting ways you think about yourself, limiting ways you
Mhm.
love yourself, limiting ways you go out in the world, or patterns in relationships or ways of operating. So the residue of these stories is found in our behavior, is found in our thought forms, is found in the places that where we hold back or don't feel safe. And I think that is the next piece of the work, right? Is like, how have my experiences and stories impacted how I show up, impacted, how I'm expressing myself, how I'm building relationships, what I'm choosing, what I'm doing. And like that really is that is the work. And I think that's such a powerful moment when you transcend the storytelling and come into, I have one life
Yeah.
and I am the sum of my choices.
Yeah.
So what do I choose, right? Like, I know how this has kept me down, so what do I choose? What do I choose to do differently?
And I think what you're speaking about, I experienced by eulogizing my father.
Mm,
Because by that time I had transcended those details and I saw my father in a different light. So it was like how apropos that I would be here eulogizing the life of my father or my
mm,
experience of my father as his body lay there, but
mm,
I'm inside seeing him in his truest light, telling these stories to people who knew him but may not have known him as their father, and then at the same time honoring the expression that he came to this physical dimension to be and the lessons he taught me in doing so. So it was
mm.
a very transformational opportunity to eulogize my father. Yeah.
So that was at his funeral.
Yes.
And so what courage, right? Because what you're saying is you told the truth, that there was truth telling in that eulogy.
Yes.
And so what was that hard for you? And what was the reaction?
I think what I remember is that saying that to deny my truth would be to deny my experience of my father. And
Mm,
so, in honor of my father, I am choosing to tell the truth about the experience of my father without negating who I know my father to be. And I
mm,
led with a good memory of my father
mhm,
because I shared that it's important for us to have good memories of the people who leave us because
mm,
it will be the only memory of the people who leave us. So I led with that and I also closed with that. And in
mm.
between was like, because no one's going to deny me that I experienced my father, dot, 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 dot. And no
Yes.
one's going to deny me. And I felt like that inner child in me was able to have her voice, to have her say with his sisters and brothers, because my father was the first of his siblings to transition, as I understand, or one
Mm,
of the first. And so to be able to say that without any, like, you don't know what he did to me. It wasn't that. It was just like, no one's going to tell me this. I said, and that's not to the denial of the beauty that my father is. So I
yeah.
kept linking it. I didn't
Yep.
leave it. But for those who had a hard time hearing it, they left there with distaste toward me and disdain to some degree. And Katie, that was okay because we need
Yeah.
balance. Like that's not my. I don't need to make them see something the way I see it. That
Yeah.
wasn't the point. The point was like I'm going to tell the truth, and I'm going to put my father to rest in the highest possible light, and that is what I did.
In truth, right? Like, not in in glossing over, not in only choosing those good memories. One
Yeah.
of the things I'll tell you, one of the core themes of my work with people over the years, and it's reduced to this sentence, and I'm really fiery about it, is do not martyr the dead. I don't ever wanna hear again, "Don't speak ill of the dead." I don't ever wanna hear that. I want that gone,
Mm.
because here's the deal, being dead doesn't indemnify someone from what they did, right? And it is very hard to heal when someone has crossed and it was abusive and there wasn't healing when they were here. It is very hard to heal when you cannot tell the truth about what happened. Now, what you did was incredibly courageous, standing up in, a public family forum.
Yeah.
People don't always have to do that, right? And that's why a lot of times with clients, I will say, "I want you to don't no, 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 tell me.
Yeah.
Tell me." And I hear like, "Oh, I don't wanna speak ill of the dead," or like, he's going to be mad at me. No, like souls, that's like being in soul form is a totally different situation than being a human. And you can't get this out of your body. It can't leave you until you tell the truth of it.
Mm.
And I would add, this is what I've experienced with my own experience with my father, who did pass about 6 months ago. There are relationships we have that are so fraught and so difficult that it's not possible to tell the full truth when this person is still alive. And so there's a safety mode or sort of a hunker mode vis-a-vis that person. And what I have seen with people, what I've experienced in my own relationship with my father's death, is that when that person crosses, there is now space and breadth and room to speak the truth. And I'm still in process about how much I'm going to talk about. I don't know. I've done writing that right now is just for me.
Yeah.
I don't know if I'll publish it. I don't know if I'll share it with 3 people or 300 or 3 million.
Yeah.
But what I know is that when he died, the freedom I felt in my body was not something I decided. I didn't decide that freedom. My whole body relaxed in a way that it hasn't in 45 years. And the truth came up out of me, and my preference is writing. And I just began to write. And I knew that I was healing something really profound that had been with me my entire life when this writing was pouring out of me about my experiences with this man. And I also felt really neutral. Like, I'm not hating. I feel really neutral because I am who I am because of this. And I am grateful for the experience. Gosh, I would love to not have to go through it again, but I don't get to choose that right now. Anyway, all this to say, this is why I'm like, please don't martyr the dead. Listen, like if your grandmother was the best thing in the world, like bring it. Let's talk about how beautiful and wonderful she was. But if we have a parent on the other side who was destructive and abusive and you've been in like decades of healing about, it doesn't do anyone any good. If
Yeah.
you shame yourself into silence, we've got to tell the truth. That's how we set ourselves free. It's where we bring ourselves to that place of transformation. And I would say getting in line with the soul agreement, because I don't get it all right now, but I know that there's some agreement between me and my father's soul. And in my humanness, I hope it's done. But I also realize that I don't have all of the information. So me transforming and transcending and speaking the truth about our experience and then coming into myself is me actually getting in alignment with our soul agreement. Because this wasn't just about my suffering, this was about my transformation.
Yes. Oh, so empowering. Oh my God. Woman, hear me roar. It's so empowering, Katie.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
This was about my becoming.
Yes.
Anyway, that's what this is about. It's about becoming when you get down to the nuts and bolts of it all.
Mhm. Mhm.
Yeah, you discover through this experience that it serves your mission and brings you home. Like it's
Mm.
about becoming who we already are.
Yeah. That's right, because it's blocks, right? Like this idea, there's this quote from Rumi, RUMI, the poet, philosopher, the Sufi poet. Your job is not to go seek love. Your job is to find all of the blocks within you to love.
You said it's when it's processed, all of this, and with your father and your experience of him, and the soul agreement. When it's processed, you let go in order to become. And I put what you already are, like
Mm.
whatever that looks like.
Yeah.
And the beautiful part about this is you already know this, but like all of us, we came here to forget. Like you already
Right.
know that. It's very empowering to know that it's not meant to see now or never, like you said to your point, or never. But it's I see what I see now and it's enough. And it may be all because it brings it to that whole place I feel of um all things being one, coming here to remember to me in a nutshell, Katie, when you said, I know I made some type of soul agreement with my father. I don't know what it is, but I do know I made an agreement. To me, that is powerful. You're not just saying like, oh, you know what? I don't know what all this was for. And it's fine because we do have experiences like that. I had experiences like that. What was this for? Like, why did I need to go through this like this? And sometimes not even knowing that, but the fact that you know that I went through this for a reason is very empowering in itself. Like, it's very empowering.
Well, and that, I mean, to your point, I mean, I think that's what we hope that we impart today. I actually think it is the rule. It is the deal. It is the truth that it does happen for a reason, that there is your soul experiences, your soul has asked, agreed to experience things in human form explicitly for your expansion, for your growth, for your transformation. Like if you get nothing else out of this conversation, you come away and you say, all right, let me look at my life and the things that are challenging me or causing me pain or like patterns that just won't abate or relent. Let me look at this and say, what is this teaching me? What is it teaching me about my story, my relationship with the story? What is it teaching me about myself? What do I need to know about what this is teaching me? This is bringing me home to my soul. I mean, you are sure about that, and I am sure about that. That all of these experiences are meant to invite us home to our soul. And I want to say the piece I was bringing up about Rumi, and he talks about love and this idea of like, you don't have to go search for love. Your job is to find the blocks within you to love, right? This idea that like, no, love is a force. You don't have to chase or pursue love. Love is in abundance, right? Take a look at the blocks within you. And so when I think about the truth of like, hey, your soul is here. Your soul is just trying to teach you, right? So let's go look at the blocks you have, the stories or the experiences or the patterns or the unconsciousness that's keeping you perceiving your separateness.
And I think that's the beauty of this whole experience of forgetting and remembering that it's about the unifying of the consciousness with the existence, with the experience. And so they both work together to bring us to that place of oneness within ourselves. What we don't know and what we're experiencing bring about that work of remembrance within us, I believe, you know?
Right. So just, let me distill it down in sort of, as our parting words and as we're wrapping this up, let me distill it down for folks listening. Because I feel like what I'm hearing us say is acknowledging, and even if you just suspect it, okay, you don't have to, like say it with your whole chest. If you're not there, you're not there. That's fine. But acknowledging that the truth is there is something much larger happening and that you are a soul and that your human experiences are teaching you about how to be in closer alignment with your soul. Your human experiences are not punishing you. They are pathways to your soul. I hear us then saying the first step in that is to tell yourself and maybe a trusted other the truth about your experiences, the pain, the suffering, the story, what you've internalized, your current state. But tell yourself the truth about it. Feel it, be in it, and then consider that in telling yourself the truth, you sort of mobilize that story. You could look at it differently. You could consider that's not something I have to stay with. That's not something that has to define me, right? So in telling the truth, it makes the story more malleable. It makes it more able to be shifted or rewritten or set aside so that you can move forward and transcend it. And here's the other piece that I want to add here, at least, is if you say, okay, so I tell myself the truth and I get a little flexible with the story, what next? Well, what comes next is, and you were getting there early on, Amory, is and Pema Chodron said this, the experience goes away when the lesson is taught. When we understand the lesson, the experience goes away. So what I would say is, okay, your next step toward consciousness is I've told myself the truth. I'm willing to consider the story and letting the story go and be. So now come to the place where there's pain. Come to the place where you're frustrated, where there's pain, where there's a pattern, where there's something that won't shift. And ask yourself, what's a different choice I could make? How could I just do something different? And I would say here, you don't have to know what you're doing different. There's just value in doing something different, right? And so, I'll break this down a little bit for us. When I think about the work I did around my experience with my father, one of the things that I really have run into is not feeling safe and not feeling safe being seen. Like if I'm seen, that's a liability. If someone really sees me, they're going to come after me and it's not safe. And so I know that's the truth. I know the story about that. I'm open to that story isn't true. I'm open to that, right? A part of my body believes that story is true. Ugh, but I'm open to it not being true. So then I come to that space and say, I don't want to feel unsafe when I reveal myself. And so I start looking. Where's one spot in my life where I could do something different? Where's one person I could reveal myself to? Where's one spot where I could say, I have a knot in my stomach and my inner child is kicking and screaming, but I am going to share a truth or reveal myself. And so I want to suggest this and illuminate this because when we talk about transforming our transcendence, like it's such a big word, but it's done in small steps. I think every transformation is just a collection of next right steps. And when you simply say, in my case, I've just felt so chronically unsafe. One way I can break this pattern is by choosing to engage with a safe person right now, or tell something vulnerable to a safe person, or being safe for myself, right? So it sounds really simplistic, but what I will tell you is that you do a couple of these conscious experiments or next steps, and the result is exponential. This isn't like a linear, take 1,422 steps. This is like you break that pattern a couple of times and something shifts and you get some part of you back. And then it gets a little bit easier. And then you try another piece of it. But you've got to look at the pain and suffering. You've got to look at what's causing you frustration, what you wish would go away, and prompt yourself, how do I step outside of this story and try something different?
Interrupting the pattern, Katie, is just so key to unmasking and revealing and remembering and healing and coming to a place of wholeness where there was brokenness. Like there's something to like holding my head different, sends different signals to different parts of my body. So now I'm opened in a way. Something as subtle as that
Mm-hmm.
can cause you to be experience other ways of seeing something just from a shift, something subtle, so I totally am in agreement with you with that, like that, how important that interruption of the pattern can be, telling
I
yourself
know.
something else, not denying that experience, but
Right.
just perhaps. I have a friend that always tells me, like, let's leave and lead with perhaps. Perhaps open
Mm.
so many's, you know?
Yes. I love that, right? Because, again, just sort of distilling it down for folks, like the story I had is I'm not safe. That was subconscious, that was in my body for a long, long time. And then there was a perhaps, like as I got older and I realized it was causing problems in my life, I understand why I don't feel safe. Perhaps it's possible that I could feel safe. Or perhaps it's possible that in some places I am safe. And I love the perhaps because it's like that's the crack of light. We're not talking about having it all figured out. We're not talking about throwing open the door. It's like that little crack, that little perhaps, that little like right in this moment, I can interrupt the pattern by connecting with A. Marie and reaffirming to my body that it is safe to do so. I cannot state enough, I cannot underscore enough the value of the little things. Because when it's done consciously, right? When you're consciously saying, "Oh my Lord, I am trying to break this pattern. I'm consciously trying to do this." When you add your consciousness to something, it is so powerful. And you can rescue yourself and transcend yourself.
Yeah. In that moment, I'm reminded of the picture of the porcelain, the china, that bone china, where they say that it's not valuable, like the one that's manufactured in whole. It's when it's cracked and it has that line of gold coming through that that it becomes more valuable. We're becoming more valuable, Katie, through our experiences. Through
Mhm. Yeah, absolutely.
we're refining ourselves in a sense,
Mhm.
you know.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right. It's remembering. Yeah. Thank you so much. I love these conversations with you. Let's keep having them. For those of you listening, like I said in the beginning, we've got the Q&A session at the Intrepid Soul platform. So drop questions, drop thoughts. If there's something you want Amory and I to talk about, explore. If you've got, a problem, an issue, if you want some advice, we're happy to give it. Bring it. Bring the questions, drop them on us. We love to talk about this stuff. We'd love to help you. And let's see what we can build together. Let's see what kind of consciousness we can shift together. If you, listener, have the question, I guarantee you someone else does. And that vulnerability of maybe stepping up and sharing and saying, here's my quandary, that really helps other people. It's helps other people to, let's do a practice problem, right? Someone stands up and is vulnerable and says, use my life as a teaching tool. So drop questions, drop thoughts. We'd love to hear them.
Yes.
Amory, I love you. Thank you.
Thank you, Katie.
And we will be back with so much more. But until next time, take good care, everybody. Hi there. Thanks so much for being with me for today's episode. So you heard Amory say we are all in the process of becoming that which we already are. And I love this idea. Amory and I have talked about this offline as friends too. And I find it really comforting. This idea that we are already our full true selves, that we have access to what we need to know, that it's about unbecoming and unlearning and taking off layers of stuff that keep us from being who we really are. So this week I have a guided meditation for you over at the Intrepid Soul Collective. And it's really gentle and simple because I think the most simple things are the deepest. So it's a meditation that centers around remembering and asking you to note what stands between you and remembering who you really are. And this isn't heavy or hard or forced. It's just a really gentle way to explore what stands between you and who you really are. And what do you need to remember? So I hope you find the meditation helpful and insightful and grounding. I'll see you over at the collective. Thank you for joining me here on the Intrepid Soul podcast. If you'd like to continue the conversation and the work of your soul, join me over on Patreon at the Intrepid Soul Collective. There you'll find tons of resources and support connected to the conversations we have here to help you make your soul work practical and embodied. There are live sessions with me, bonus Q&As where you can go deeper with me and my guests, companion guided meditations and ceremonies, and so much more. Because we can't just talk about it, we've got to become it. Check out the show notes for details and links, and hit follow on this podcast. It'll keep new episodes at the top of your feed, and it helps me build the Intrepid Soul community. Until next time, take good care of yourself and your soul.